Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, wherever you are. I'm here with my buddy Drip. This is CRL, the pre-race build down. We're gonna talk about, basically some of the things to know about the Suzuka layout, some of the strategies, some of the different rivalries there are between constructors and drivers at the moment, and basically pretty much some of the things that you might want to look out for during the race. So yeah, um, I think that to begin with, our first talking point, Drip, would be the track itself. So what do you think? I mean, there's pretty much there's only one DRS detection zone, pretty high downforce track through for sector 1 and sector 2. So what do you think? Are we gonna see cars opt for a more high speed or a more grippy setup? What are your thoughts on that?
Honestly, it's hard to pick a standpoint on that. Looking back across the Division Two and Division Three races we've seen last night,
Mm-hmm.
we've seen quite the mix of high downforce and low downforce, and they've both seen their ups and downs. The key is keeping it consistent through Sector One seems to be the the big one there, as it's the most technical spot on the track.
I
I've seen a
agree.
lot of people making a small mistake. You touch the curbs at the wrong time. Tires are a little bit too hot. Spin yourself out into the gravel, and that can completely change the face of your race.
Exactly. I completely agree. And just like you said, one small mistake, and this track is very punishing. The runoff areas are quite big, but they're gravel traps, so basically you're gonna lose a lot of time getting the car back to the track. So yeah, um,
Exactly.
drivers are gonna be
On top
really careful. Yep,
on top of that, it is still pretty high speed, so trying to get yourself back up to speed with dirty tires is another battle in and of itself.
exactly. I completely agree. How about let's talk a bit about dirty air in here. How much do you think it's gonna influence these D1 drivers right now? Do you think that they're gonna take into consideration this aspect, or maybe they're just gonna get as close as they can to the car in front of them to try to prevent these loss of downforce? Because I think in D2 and D3 we did see some cars following through the S's. They got a bit too far behind due to dirty air. So how do you think that's gonna impact the overtaking opportunities around Suzuka?
Well, our Division One drivers are the fastest around in Zoom Racing League, and as we saw closer to the top end of Division Two, we saw drivers being able to not necessarily chase right up to the tail of the car in front of them, but they would plan a couple corners ahead where they can get themselves close enough to get a run on them towards a braking zone or into the few long straightaways we have, or that one and only DRS zone you mentioned.
Exactly, exactly. Speaking of which, are we gonna see? Well, due to the track layout, I think like if drivers can get a good exit out of turn 14 and into 130R, I think like do you think that could be a good overtaking spot, or do you think they might be like they would set themselves up to be vulnerable into the DRS zone from the car
I, I
behind?
think I think you hit the nail right on the head there. They'd be setting themselves up completely vulnerable to an overtake into turn one.
All right.
So I think we're going to see a lot of planned. Maybe they're coming back up on the car, and you might see a couple guys let off, or some people going to avoid using ERS to catch up but not get too close to them and use the advantage down the main straightaway.
All right. So now, speaking of which, you just hit like a really good talking point, which is ERS. So how do you think? Well, looking back into the D3 and D2 races, we've seen that ERS deployment levels are not that high around Suzuka. I mean, yeah, if you completely like butcher that that overtake button, you are gonna deplete pretty quickly. But we've seen that drivers, they if they save up ERS for around 1, 2, maybe 3 laps, they can gain even 40, 50% ERS. So how do you think how important do you think ERS management is going to be around, the Suzuka track?
I think it's still going to be quite important because even though you can make up a good amount of percentage over 1, 2, maybe even just 3 charge laps, if you're outside that DRS zone and there's a train up ahead of you, you're going to have a hard time keeping up with those cars.
Okay, yeah.
So management to keep yourself within that 1 second, 1.5 second, where you're still getting a little bit of slipstream off of those cars is going to be important.
Yeah, I completely agree. Now, how about we circle a bit back to strategy? We've seen, yesterday on the D2 race, we saw a couple of drivers going very very early for for a set of mediums, and well, Sid from Ferrari went for hards, which was a very good choice because he had very fresh tires towards the end. But do you think a lot of drivers are gonna opt for the one stop here at Suzuka, or are we gonna see
I
maybe two
think
stops?
I think unfortunately due to this game that Codemasters has given us,
Hmm.
you kind of are forced to make a one-stop work almost every track here. Maybe something like Monaco might work, but to determine soft first, medium first, hard first, whichever way you want to go, it seems soft to medium first has been the most successful strategy so far. But who knows? We've got a lot of drivers in this Division One field that'll make an early unfortunate pit stop turn into a podium.
I completely
So
agree. Yeah, 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 yeah.
we could see anything.
We can see absolutely anything here. I completely agree on that. And so here, I think quali is going to be a very interesting, determining point for the outcome. We have very fast hot lap drivers. I would say, Alpine, Ian Krieger, one of the fastest hot lappers I've seen in Division One. Do you think teams are gonna use maybe slipstreaming tactics, or this type of strategies in order to improve their qualifying time? So we might see Red Bull. We've seen that they like to play the slipstream game. Do you think more teams are gonna jump in to
I
with this strategy?
I think that's going to be a very key part. A big slipstream down from Spoon towards 130R is going to be a big couple of tenths towards your fastest lap there. So I feel like it may not be just Honda's tactic this weekend.
All right, yeah, very good, very good. So now into getting into what would be the fourth round, Japan. I'm taking a look at the constructors championships, and we see that the top three, AlphaTauri, Red Bull, and Alpine, really close to actually the top six. Actually, all the way from
They're
AlphaTauri to Ferrari, they're really really tight. So
very tight.
how do you think maybe team orders or driver swaps is gonna play in this race? Do you think team principals are gonna give their drivers well free choice to race themselves, or we might see some driver swaps in the race?
Honestly, I think we might be a little too early into the season with the fourth race. Hopefully,
You're
to
right.
have team principals coming down and giving some team orders. But in the case of Ferrari,
Mm-hmm.
where we've got Bob Loblaw and Bronson Stafford sitting right above each other in position for the driver standings, if we've got one of them significantly outpacing the other, I could see Josh getting on the horn,
All
letting
right.
one of them know, hey, let them by, don't get in each other's way.
Understood. Yeah.
Keep the constructors championship rolling, because if they can get themselves two of them up into the top five, with the fact that I believe it's Red Bull and Alpine are missing drive are have drivers on tentative this weekend,
You're right. Yep. So yeah,
the
constructors
constructors
championships.
points are going to be important.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's like a key point to look out for the Ferrari, for the Scuderia Ferrari. Now, circling back, to the track itself. What what do you think about possible safety car? Early versus late safety car, because D2 we had early safety car, D3 we had just VSC. But what would the impact be, if we're 3 laps for the or 4 laps toward the end, and we get a safety car, what would be the possible strategy, thinking that you are with 20 something lap old tires, like you have 2 seconds pace, like you have like a very small gap to try to go into the pits. Would you go for the gap, or would you just try to retain track position?
With a track like this, if we got one, or if they were to get one, I don't know, at least 5 laps from the end,
Mm-hmm.
or they'd be coming out from the safety car with at least 5 laps to race, I think taking the pit stop would be a no-brainer. The amount of pace advantage you would have
Mm-hmm.
is just unprecedented
All right. So yeah.
compared to 15 lap old mediums.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. So yeah, safety car. Early, late safety car is gonna be something that a lot of teams, are gonna be thinking about it. Basically, say safety cars in general. So yeah, it's a tracking where it's the safety car. I think, in my opinion, it's got a very tough impact on the strategy of the race. So yeah, we're gonna have to watch out for for that.
For sure.
Yeah. So I
The
think.
one interesting thing that I don't see a lot of people talking about in the Discord
Mhm.
is throughout practice races, I would say it was about 1 in every 5 sessions, we'd run into a full wet race.
Ooh,
And
this is
I
interesting.
don't know how many people have done wet practice, but this track is a little bit different when it's all covered in water. So that is still a possibility for tonight, even if it's just one of the sessions. Could change the face of the race as well.
I completely agree. Yeah, like a wet qualifying or a wet race, oof, it would flip the table around massively.
But finding the safe spot between the setups is going to be the key if we do run into some wet tonight.
Absolutely agree. And we've seen Suzuka, IRL and through the last F1 games, is a track that basically it's known for draining water quite moderately quickly. So we might see if it's a wet race.
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is time. It is Sunday night. It is 8 o'clock on the East Coast, and we are ready to go green flag racing here in Suzuka. It is Division 1 of the Zoom Racing League. The fastest of the fast in Division 1 are ready to go head-to-head, toe-to-toe, wheel-to-wheel, and bang around the S's of Suzuka through the historic track. It has 18 turns, a little over 5 kilometers long, and it is a very fast track. Has a technical first section, a hairpin that can trip drivers up, but the end is a lot of fun as you head down towards Spoon, through Spoon, up to 130R, and towards the final chicane where you see that beautiful Ferris wheel waiting for you to get onto the main straight to the DRS zone and try to chase everyone down into Turn 1. Turn 1's a fast one, and like we said, it leads into those close technical S's that a lot of people just don't seem to like. Taking a look at the constructor standings, AlphaTauri is leading the way with 110 to 101 points to Red Bull. So Honda Power leading the way as we come to their home Grand Prix for their engine manufacturer. Will the Honda Power be able to outlast the Mercedes Power of McLaren, Mercedes, the vacuum cleaner of Alpine, and the Ferraris rounding out the bottom? DNFs leading in the clubhouse by Williams. Most polls go to Alpine, and right now we're only going to have one Alpine driver starting for us in quali. Ian will be out, will be late. He will try to make the race, but he will miss quali tonight. AlphaTauri has the most wins, most podiums, and if we take a look now at the driver standing, Razor, the McLaren driver, the Brazilian who won at Brazil after penalties were applied at the end of the race, not here this week. Will not be here to drive that McLaren in Suzuka. So Travis Robinson, Duncan McCamick, Peter Giordano, who is out. He's out of the country. Victor Diaz, Bob Loblaw, and Bronson Stafford are looking to pounce on 2 of your top 5 not being here. And Big Mama Frank, right now it's anybody's game.
Yeah, it really is. With all the absences and things like that, it provides a really good opportunity for people who have not had the greatest start to the season so far. On top of that, this track, you mentioned the S's that nobody likes. The S's, I mean, S's are, I think, are really fun to drive. It's just those dang curbs, man. Like, if you hit those curbs, it's like a 50-50 whether you're going to just go flying off the track and explode, or you just you gain a bunch of time. So it's such a hard track to nail.
Yeah, it can certainly go either way. I know we had several of our drivers experience that the hard way, and man, it's just you have a good lap going, and you just make a small little mistake, and next thing you know, it's over and done with, and that is your race done. We saw 2 safety cars in Division 2, I believe, and only 1 in Division 1. So I think the over-under for Division 1 is safe and clean as these guys drive. I think if we saw 1, it'd be kind of a surprise.
Yeah, 1 is probably about where we're going to be. Usually, it takes someone to just straight up crash out. And since we have run the lower damage models and have to reduce safety car settings, safety cars aren't necessarily a guarantee in this league.
All right, so let's head over. It is time for quali. These guys are ready to get out on the track. Looking at Travis Robinson coming out. Looks like we're going to have a driver ahead of him right now. Everybody so far coming out on the softs. I think that makes sense. Go in and rubber the track in, put a good banker in with your softs, and then see if you want to try to start on the mediums. Medium tires, I think we said last night, would last around 16, 17 laps. We saw Sid actually make it work and get his first win of Division 2 on the hard tires. So if you're willing to put in the work, if you've already done the testing and you know what those hard tires are about, you can make them last. But I think for everybody, this is going to be a soft to medium, and try to stretch those softs as long as you can, praying for a safety car.
Yeah, the one stop, soft, medium, soft is generally the standard strategy for most tracks. The thing with this track is because it's such a low overtaking track, the only real guaranteed place you have to overtake people is either at the end of the back straight going to the final chicane, or down the DRS straight on the pit straight. So if you can follow somebody quickly enough through the rest of the track, you can get away with hards pretty well.
All right, so Ryan Zebra is coming across the line. Big Mama Frank looks like he's just disconnected, so we'll see if he can come back in here in just a second. Otherwise, I'll be flying solo, so internet connection. Oh, and Ryan Zebra actually sends it around on his first lap. We talked about the curbs there in Suzuka, and turn 2, at the beginning of turn 2, Ryan seems to have caught one of the inside curbs, and his rear end went around to meet his front, and now he's got to try to make a recovery here, cool those tires down, and start another lap. So in that process, he was jumped in the queue by one of the McLarens. It looks like Tom. Tom also on an out lap, so we'll see if we can pick somebody up who's actually on a hot lap right now. Looks like Cal has just finished his hot lap. Cal, a reserve, filling in for, as Big Mama Frank starts to get back in now. We'll see if he can reconnect here in a second. Cal filling in for Peter Giordano. Peter out this week. He is our back-to-back defending champion in Division 1, so not ideal for him to be out. These are big points at stake, and he's already had a couple of rough races. Had a really good thing going there in Brazil, and spun towards the end of the race. And unfortunately with Brazil, if you spin on that penultimate turn before the big run up to the main straight, it will reset you back to track, and you're ghosted and you lose all that time. So it was a bad deal. He was closing the gap. He was looking to get that podium, because I believe either Victor or Razor had a penalty, and Peter would have made good points there, but instead he left fairly empty-handed. All right, so here we are in Sector 2, one of the favorite parts of the track for many drivers. You come through Spoon. Travis sets the fastest lap at a 1:28.9. Cal handles Spoon very well, and so you have this big long stretch right here where you want to dump all of your ERS as you head up to 130R, the iconic left-hander that you just take absolutely flat out. No lift at all. Car is planted through there perfectly. Break it around the 100 to 75 meter board, and you're going to be hard in that chicane. Cut the first part. Try not to cut the second part too much. And then you've got to be careful not to go wide or to spin here as you get back on the power. and he gets across the line, and Kai sets a 1:29.5 to provisionally sit to P2, and Jack Fletcher says, no, sir. No, sir, my teammate and I are going to be up there. And Bob says, no, no, no. It's Ferrari time as he sticks that red machine P2 with a 1:29.2. Really good first lap from him. Let's see what we can pick up next. Looks like Hunter J will be coming across next. Possibly. Oh, and that is Tom I grabbed. Let's pop over. That is Beamer. Hunter J goes P6, 1:29.505. Duncan McCamick, P3, putting that Honda power up there in the top three with a 29.3. We have a yellow, and that looks like that is going to be Joel Guron that might be around there. And I don't know if he pulled over to let somebody through. That is not Joel Guron. That appears to be, colors are hard to see, folks. I'm working on it here. Was that Beamer? Well, it's a dark color.
It looks like people are just getting out of the way of the hot laps.
It's that Duncan with no front wing. Okay, so it was Duncan McCamick that was spun around after he set his burner of a lap at a 29.3. He actually ruined his front wing. Now he's going to go all the way back around. Seems to have lost it in the S's. So bad news for Duncan, but really, honestly, he wasn't going to be pushing back to back, I don't think. So it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. Let's try to pick up with John Ranger as he completes his out lap, as we have some more times coming through. Victor Diaz goes P2, 1:29.1, so he's 2/10 off Travis Robinson. Victor actually out of town, not on his rig, actually playing on the pad this week. So a little reversion back to season 1 and season 2 for Victor. It'll be very interesting to see if he's still got it in the fingers like he's got it in his toes.
And he is still relatively new on the wheel, so he might actually, honestly, with some, once he kind of gets the rhythm and gets back into the rhythm of things, he might be more comfortable back on the pad. But looking at these qualifying times, we'll probably start seeing people start getting close to the low 28s, probably something like 28.3s, 28.4s on their next stints. And that'll probably be the close around the time when we start seeing poles, or what we expect for pole, excuse me.
Getting word from Peter Giordano in the Discord that the game sound was a little bit loud. So if you could please let me know if that's better. I'm trying not to click off too much. Joe Guron pearls out of the way for John Ranger. John Ranger, one of our interesting combos with he and John Pilon. Pilon is not here today, but two French-Canadian drivers, and Pilon, who I said is not here, Razor Senna, his former teammate, also not here. That duo split up, and one of the things that Pilon said was he wanted to be teamed with John Ranger so they could speak French together in the chat. Do what you will with that information. So John Ranger, our French-Canadian, is going to be joined by fellow Canadian Jordan Angus, the artist formerly and currently known as Sleek. Sleek had a rough go of it in Division 1 last year. He's back in Division 2 now, but he's still got the speed. He's still got the pace. Had an incredible drive last night. He and his teammate put those two Ferraris in a really good spot. And John Ranger actually goes P8 with a 29.4. Really good lap from him. Got here with Jack.
Yeah, solid percent.
So only two drivers not yet to set a time would be Jack Pemberton and Will Graham. Will is actually coming around right now. He is invalidated, unfortunately. So we'll ride around with Jack Pemberton right now as he makes his way through the S's. A staple of the Tilke designed courses is Herman Tilke and his sons, along with the FIA and Formula One. They like these really technical, demanding, kind of scare you to drive through them type of tracks, as Jack goes a little bit offline but doesn't actually invalidate, and so he's still got that thing going as he comes around through the hairpin. This one can be tricky to get right. A lot of drivers end up going wide, and so it can be an overtaking zone, but man, it is a gamble if you don't have your car set up just right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Senna who said something like, if you don't have skid marks after every lap, you're not really racing.
I like it.
So yeah, these tracks are pretty scary.
All right, so riding along with Jack Pemberton. Cal has retired from the session. It looks like he actually lost it into the wall through the S's. So that'll be it for him. He'll be not be able to improve from P12. So Jack Pemberton through 130R up to the Casio Triangle here at the chicane in the background. As he comes around, we should be able to see the beautiful Ferris wheel, and he keeps it nice and clean and tight, all on the ERS, DRS, and he does not really improve from where he was sitting. He jumps Ryan Zebra from P17 to P16, so not a great lap there, and like Jack's got a little bit of battery, he can go back-to-back pushes as long as he has the fuel to do so.
Yeah, the big problem with these back-to-back pushes is just you put so much the software so quickly on this track that if you're starting your race on softs with 4 or 5 laps already on them, you're at a really big disadvantage to everyone else.
Travis actually improves his time, goes to a 1:28.8, so he actually improves by almost a full tenth there. Just before we jumped on with Travis, we jumped on Will Graham. It looks like Will had invalidated again at the Casio Triangle chicane there towards the end of the lap. So Will's going to have to put something together here. He's got 7.5 minutes, so he's got time to go back in and refuel. But these laps are just going to keep getting faster, and Will's not going to want to start at the back if he doesn't have to.
The positive thing is he probably has a delta already probably set up, since even though you invalidate your lap, you still get a delta as kind of a reference to know whether you're going faster or slower than you were before. So it's not a total loss for him. Oh, and as I say that, Jack Fletcher spins into the S's. No contact, so I think his car's still good.
It looks like he's got it all together, so disappointing for Jack. Jack's such a quick driver, such a good dude. Jack is one of our guys who actually broadcasts for our Division 3, so he's one of the people in the community that does pull extra duty. Also really quick, really quality driver in ACC and iRacing. He's one of those guys you just throw him behind the pixel steering wheel, and he can just drive the wheels off the thing. Really consistent, and just a really good guy to have around. So feel bad for Jack there, but he's still got time, 6.5 minutes to try to set a lap and catch back up to where he was earlier. Meanwhile, Tom has gone P2 in the McLaren. So in Razor's absence, Tom seems to inherited a little bit of that speed, and that's a really good time. He's 1/10 clear of Victor and 2/10 clear of Bob.
It's a really impressive lap. We haven't seen Tom up at the top of the qualifying boards in the recent races, so that's a really nice job. Oh, and there goes Duncan, P2.
Well, looks like the Red Bull crew put a little Red Bull in the back of that Red Bull and slapped a new wing on, sent him out there, and he set a blistering lap. He's still a 10th off of Travis, but that's good news for the Honda Power. So we'll see, whether Joel Guron or Jack Fletcher can do anything to match their teammates and maybe play that little bit of a gunner role. And here comes Joel, and Joel actually invalidates through the chicane as well. And so bad news for him. Jack Fletcher, where's he at on track? Still working his way around. And so he's going to start another lap here as he comes through the chicane and validates through the chicane. He'd already gone off anyway, and he's going to go into the pits and try to re-strategize here. Let's check with Beamer. He has made it through the S's. Looks like the Aston Martins are kind of running back-to-back. Wonder if they're setting up a tow, and we actually missed Lee Hall going P2. He pips Duncan by a full 10th there and only 400ths off of Travis Robinson. So Lee has been looking to have a big result. He's had a rough start to the season, but he is a quality driver. Like I was mentioning with Jack Fletcher, he's another one that pulls extra duties around here. Jack and Lee actually both did our D3 race this week, and Lee for a while was going without his computer, and he got a new one, and hopefully it's as fast as we think he can be right now.
Mentioning the tow, this is kind of one of the few tracks where you actually probably are better off not having a tow, because both of the straights on this track kind of lead to relatively high speed corners that if you took too much speed into, it can really compromise your ability to execute those corners.
Absolutely, that makes sense. Looks like Beamer will be our next across the line. He's 9 seconds down on his time though, so he may be recharging for another push lap here. So let's hop back just a spot here and see what Lee Hall is up to, if he's getting another time in or if he's going to go to the pits. After he set that blistering lap, yeah, Lee is in the pits. Looks like Duncan McCamick is in the pits. Who's going to be our next across? It'll be one of looks like Jordan Angus maybe starting a lap here.
Ryan Zebra just went past the hairpin going in towards the spoon, and he's on a hot lap now.
All right, we'll jump on board with Ryan Zebra in that Williams, and he's going to try to get that back up to the top. Zebra was one of them that I talked to a little bit before and definitely after the draft, and he was very disappointed with where he was taken. And he's got a lot to prove because he really wants to be up there near the top, and he's got the speed, he's got the racecraft. It's just a matter of getting it all together consistently. And so right now his teammate's sitting in P7, so he'd like to get those Williams cars as close together as possible. There's our beautiful Ferris wheel as Ryan carefully brings it through the chicane. Does keep it clean, and we'll see how much he can improve, if at all. And he actually does. Puts it right next to his teammate. So P7 and P8 for Williams. Damian Doe with a 129.2. Ryan Zero with a 29.3. So good job for Williams. Both of them to be in the top 10.
Did a 3-lap old softs too, so he still has a bunch of time in there that he might be able to shave off with his next stint.
Will Graham on another hot lap, on another invalidation. He is having a rough go of it in the solo Haas. Does not have a teammate for this race. Problem with Jason Pelter. He's going to be here for the race as well. So looks like the Haas boys may be starting from the back. So bad news for them. Let's check out the McLarens and see what they're up to. Actually, I say that. I think John Ranger's finishing a lap. No, that is going to be Jordan Angus, actually. So let's see if Sleek can say. And Sleek's actually half a tenth up right now, which would move him up near the lead. And Jordan Angus puts it on P2. I am so glad I caught that, Sleek. Really nice lap. Good job, Sleek.
Man, for someone who's in D2, that was a banger. Thank Travis put in another one too.
And
that's Tom.
It was Tom, and I picked it up just in time. Really good lap from Tom to go 28.7. So putting a little bit of a gap there. So now it's time to really start pressing. And I wonder if you're Bronson Stafford, what have you got other than traffic ahead of you and behind you? Right now is about the time you're going to have to do it, Bronson, because you're only going to have time for this and maybe. Well, no, he's on an outlap. This is it. This is it for Bronson Stafford. So as he comes around towards the hairpin, he's got to finish up the rest of the lap. Let's check in with Victor Diaz and Jack Pemberton. And Jack actually improves by half a tenth. Only moves up to P16, though. And Victor Diaz still in P6. Next across the line looks to be Duncan McCamick or Joel. I can't tell which one that was. So next we'll have either Lee Hall or Beamer will be coming across. And it is Beamer on an outlap, so he'll be starting a lap. We'll ride on board with him for just a little bit. Looks like a Red Bull behind him, potentially Travis Robinson. It's not Travis. Jack Fletcher?
Jack Fletcher's crossing the line just right now.
Up 3/10, moves him up into P9, so he'll be starting in that P10. So he'll be locked into those soft tires. But so we've got a Red Bull 1 and 9, and then Duncan McCamick and Joel in 7th and 10th. So Honda Power, 4 of the top 10 positions. It's about time for Bronson and Jack Pemberton to kind of get something going. And Will Graham, he is in the pits right now, so he is just resigned to his fate at this point down there in P18. So bad times for him. And Cal and Alpine also bad times, stuck in P15. He got pushed down 3 more slots from where he was. Bronson Stafford actually leaves the session, goes back to the pits. Not sure what's going on there. I know last week, even though he had or 2 weeks ago when he had that brilliant result in Brazil, he was actually having wheel issues, but still managed to win the race on track and then lost it due to penalties. Next across the line will be John Ranger into the pits, and then Jack Pemberton also into the pits. Victor Diaz, I assume, will also be going into the pits. Yeah, he's way down on his time, so he will not be completing a lap. Let's check in with Joel Guron. Joel has invalidated. Bob Loblaw, the last Ferrari, also an invalid lap. So a lot of invalidations here at the end, and I think that's going to be it for quali. Don't know if we're going to see anybody else set a time worth noting. And Bob,
I think Hunter J might be the last one on a flying lap here.
Hyundai actually sitting in P2 right now. Somehow we missed that. So 2 McLarens in the top 3. Hyundai did hit me up at the end and let me know that he actually practiced a lot more this week than he typically does. And so that work showing off right now. Only 4 thousandths off Travis Robinson, who we know is a very quick driver. Hyundai reserving right now. He used to be in D2, used to be in D1, and now he's reserving for us. And so it looks like right now, as we cross the line, we've got a little bit of a desync issue. And so we're going to remake the lobby. We're going to step away for just a moment and let everything settle back down, get resorted, and we're going to get everyone back in. We'll just take a shot here. Everyone did qualify on the soft, so we do have a rule. If you're inside the top 10 and we remake the lobby and you decide to change your tires, it will be a post-race penalty. So that will not come into effect right now. But we'll be back here in about 3 to 5 minutes once we get this lobby resorted, and we will be back with Green Flag Racing for Division 1 live here from Suzuka. Hey, take this moment right now. Go get something to drink, get some tater chips for PBJ, and make sure you like and subscribe, and we will see you back shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Sorry about that delay. Send your complaints and confusion over to Codemasters because we had a little desync issue, but we are back and we are on our formation lap as Travis Robinson leads the field around, and it looks like, do we have somebody already spin on the formation lap? Looks like we got an Aston Martin way behind, potentially, of Beamer NG, but he's got to catch back up the field so he doesn't get teleported back to the grid and have to start on those cold tires. Speaking of tires, our bottom three, Will Graham, Jason Pelzer, Ian Krieger. The bottom two, Jason and Ian, were not present for quali. Will Graham never set a time, had a couple of invalidations, had sort of a rough go in it, so they will all be starting on the mediums. Everyone else qualified on or has opted for the softs. So it looks like the AWS strategy says soft to medium or soft to hard. Could be a two-stopper if there is a safety car, but I can almost guarantee these drivers are not banking on that. Big Mama Frank, what say you on the tire strategy?
I'm really surprised how many people are starting on softs. Literally, the top 17 are all on softs. That's really surprising because if you start on mediums and you do get that potential safety car, then you could be in a really good spot in terms of. Did I just see somebody spun into the wall there? Was that?
I'm not seeing anyone sideways or broken.
It was Pemberton. Pemberton was like facing backwards off the track. I wonder if that's going to lose him positions. He's coming into the grid last now, and he was not at the back of the pack coming into it, so hopefully he doesn't lose any positions. That was really bizarre.
It does look like he is sliding into his pit box. So there's the AWS predicted strategy. You can go one of about 4 different ways because AWS keeps telling us 4 different things. But now it is time to go racing. So our top 5, Travis Robinson from Hunter J, from Jordan Angus, from Lee Hall. We got 5 lights and we are underway here in Suzuka. We got a Haas already into the wall. We got an Alpine, it looks like, into the grass. Travis Robinson gets away cleanly. Tom has fallen back 2 spots already. Lee Hall and Jordan Angus capitalizing on that. So it's Travis Hunter, Lee Hall, Jordan Angus, Tom, John Ranger, Victor Diaz from Duncan McCamick. Beamer and G's gained a couple of spots from 14 up to 12. Jer Goron loses a spot down to 12. And it looks like
that was Ryan Zebra went off, and Beamer rode off the track too. So now they're losing. Oh, Beamer just DNF'd. Not Beamer. Ryan Zebra just DNF'd.
Ryan Zebra is out, and that is a virtual safety car. So the drivers will have to slow down, and it's going to bunch things up a little bit. But you got to watch the delta here. We have had virtual safety car issues in the past, where we have seen drivers void that delta and get a speeding penalty, and that is a no-go at the beginning of the race. So. Rough start. Ryan Zebra, we talked about this season has not been kind to him. Division I constructor standings, leading the way in DNFs is Williams, and that trend is continuing, and bad times in the Williams garage.
Really unlucky. It looked like he had some kind of contact. Beamer went off the track on the inside of the track, and it looked like people were going onto the other side of the track to try to avoid him, and then Zebra got caught up in that and looked like he spun and hit the wall, so really unfortunate.
So the stewards or the marshal should have that cleared shortly. I imagine the virtual safety car won't last more than just a little bit longer. Ryan Zebra hangs it up for the evening. He is done, has left the session, so he'll be headed back to the Williams garage to try to figure out what went wrong. And we're hoping that it's not a little Mercedes on Mercedes violence, that he and Beamer had a little bit of a moment there, and Ryan came up on the worst stop of it. And AWS again, predicted strategy. We get it. Tires, got to change them. And we are back, green flag racing, and Hunter J is already all over the back of Travis Robinson. Not going to let him run away after this virtual safety car. And all the way back, the top 8 are all within that DRS range. I don't think we're going to have DRS next time around. Another flag in Sector 1.
Oh, there goes Victor.
Victor down all the way down to P18. He went around. Looks like the wing is intact. Beamer NG is in the pit. So, as Victor goes around again. So
those tires are cooked.
So bad times for him. That is not the place to have a hot tire. So he's going to have to cool that down and get things going again. So Victor with a big time recovery he's going to have to make.
Luckily he has no damage, so he's not as 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 bad as Beamer is in terms of the situation. So he can still have an opportunity with some kind of safety car. But yeah, spinning on this track is just so rough.
Well, just based on how the standings have been going, kind of a surprising top 6 here. We have 2 McLarens, one of which is not Razor Senna, and we have 2 Alfa Romeos. Alfa Romeo is way down there in the championship standings, just barely outpacing Williams, Aston Martin, and Haas. So it's really surprising to see the 2 Canadians there, and one of them not being John Pilon.
Oh, back in 12th place, Jack Pemberton went really deep on the last chicane. Bronson Sabat was able to overtake him going down the main straight.
So bad times for Mercedes. Good news for Ferrari Power is they have currently a P4, P6, P8 for Bob, and Bronson making up 5 spots. He started in P17. He's already up to P12. So it's good news for Bronson. Right on board with Lee Hall. We'll see how close he can keep this to Hunter J and Travis Robinson. They're all still going to be within that DRS range. And then Duncan McCammack's going to have Bob and his teammate Jack Fletcher to deal with before too much longer. Damian and Joel also in that second train. Let's take a look at Cal right now. Cal catching up to Jack Pemberton after Jack had his issue.
So Jack has no feel right now. He's losing so much time to Bronson. I know Cal is just right in his gearbox.
Looking on board, nobody with damage on track right now, according to the telemetry tool. So Travis Robinson's going to bring them back around the exit of Spoon up to 130R. And this is as good a spot as you're going to get to overtake on this track. It's basically here, turn 1, and maybe the hairpin, depending on how you got yourself set up. Will Graham picks up a 3-second time penalty. Bad news for the Haas driver.
That's a really fast penalty.
And Hunter J is going to be our first driver to have DRS, and he is closing up very quickly to the back of Travis Robinson. In fact, he's going to go ahead and get that move done. So we have our first overtake under DRS, and Hunter J is running away with this right now. Has already built 0.3 of a gap. Travis is staying close, but we'll see how long that lasts. So right now we have a McLaren in the lead, Travis Robinson in the Red Bull in 2, Lee Hall having a really good race so far in P3 in the Aston Martin. We won't stay on him too long, so we want him to keep having a good time. And Will Graham is out of the session. It looks like he has lost it either on the main straight or has just decided to call it quits in the pits. But we'll ride on board with Beamer and G and see if we can pick up where that Haas is, and it looks like it is across the wall and parked for now. So Will Graham and Ryan Zebra out of the session. We are down to 18 drivers here in Suzuka.
Yeah, as we were watching Hunter J overtake Travis, Cal got past Jack Pemberton, and now Pemberton stuck behind him. Really rough race for these Mercedes so far.
Meanwhile, our top 3 have built over 1 second gap from Jordan Angus, so Jordan's going to have to try to hold off the McLaren of Tom while John Ranger attempts to get up there and help and see if they can smash the cream of the McLaren in that Alfa Romeo sandwich. Lee Hall sucking up to the back of Travis here through the chicane. There's the beautiful Ferris wheel. They're going to both have DRS, and Hunter J is going to find himself under attack. And actually, Travis does get it. Hunter had just barely broken the 1 second gap there to Travis, but Travis was just within that 1 second in the DRS detection zone. But neither one of them can catch up to Hunter J right now. Hunter is just flying right now. And if he keeps this up, he's going to break that DRS on Travis Robinson, so it's going to be Lee versus Travis. And Travis will be at the disadvantage to Lee if he does not also have the DRS.
This is such a strange track because you only have the one DRS zone. If you can break that DRS zone and your pace is solid, you can run away with the race really fast. And at the same time, if you lose that DRS down that main straight, you can also just start losing so much time.
That's one of the things we talked about earlier is how fast this track is, especially in Sector 3. And you would think that that would be a natural place to put in that DRS zone, but much like Zandvoort, because the exit to what would be that DRS zone, or the entrance in the case of Zandvoort, because there's such a fast turn there, there's only so fast you can let these cars go and still feel good about the safety of the driver. So it kind of makes sense to not have one there, but that is a place you definitely want to save up your battery to try to stay close to the back so you can get that DRS once you hit the main straight.
Yeah, and if you go off just the track just a little bit when you're going on that high-speed left turn, Oh, it can end so disastrously. Oh, Travis just bumped in the back of Hunter J. He actually, I think Hunter just got a warning for going off track there for getting punted. So that's unfortunate.
Lee Hall into the pits early. Looks like he does have some damage to his front wing. Not severe, but enough that he was feeling it and decided he needed to go ahead and change that. So really good start for Lee Hall, and it just kind of got rough from there. So right now, it is a McLaren 1-3, and they are, you know, the bread to the Travis Robinson's meat sandwich. 4-5, we're looking at the two Alfa Romeos representing really strongly here for Ferrari. So a couple of Canadian drivers hunting down a couple of Americans and another Canadian, and Travis Robinson.
Man, it's so stressful once you get those two warnings, particularly this early in the race. The rest of the race is so stressful because you don't want to get that third warning. A track like this where you're not really spending a lot of time cutting corners, really only on the last two turns or on that final chicane. But even then, you have so much leeway in terms of track limits there. It's really hard to actually get warnings there. But if you get a penalty here, it's so damaging to your race. But I guess in this instance, it is a little controversial since Hunter J did get punted off the track.
Well, speaking of controversial, Hunter J did have a 1.3 second gap there, had broken the DRS. Travis is right there on the cusp of losing it. It looks like through the detection zone, he will actually get DRS back. He was at 0.998 as they passed through the detection zone. So Travis should have it one more time around here, and Hunter J is going to be fighting for his life as Tom is trying to capitalize. And Travis actually did not get the DRS.
Yeah, he didn't. That's weird. It looked like he had it. Like in terms of the delta, it looked like he was within range. I guess not. He had a really good exit coming out of Spoon. I'm really surprised he didn't have it there.
So good news for Tom as he cuts up a little bit closer. Bad news for Duncan McCamick. Hunter J is DNF'd and he is out of the session. Is that going to be our first safety car? What happened to Hunter J? He lost in the S's on the second turn. So turn 3 has claimed its first victim, and we do have our first safety car. So that is the end of the race for Hunter J. Travis Robinson inherits the lead from Tom, from John Ranger, from Jordan Angus. So if you're Lee Hall and Victor Diaz, as I pull up the tires here, this may be a blessing for you.
Oh man, Vietnam flashbacks right now, dude. Where I crashed last night.
Indeed, I didn't want to bring it up, but since you did, yeah. How did that feel?
I remember sitting there in silence for about 2 minutes, trying to ignore everything. Couldn't believe what just happened, but well, it didn't feel very good, that's for sure.
Yeah, so
but honestly, I think in this situation, what we'll see from all these soft runners, I think every single one should go in here and either put on a set of mediums or hards. And honestly, yeah, and you just want to try to go the rest of the race. It is only, since we're on lap 7 with the safety car, they'll probably go in at the end of lap 9, most likely. So you will only have to do, 18 laps on your mediums. That's doable, or even on the hards. And we saw yesterday, since Sid was on the hards, and it had a pretty significant pace advantage compared to the mediums at the end of the race. I think everyone needs to box here, and if you don't, I think you're making a big mistake.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You lose so much time if you try to do this under green flag, and you cannot count on another safety car. We've seen 3 DNFs, but only one of those resulting in a safety car. So advantage to Joel Guron and Beamer NG. They actually went in for mediums and hards just before the safety car. So they could potentially jump a few spots here and be on a tire advantage. Bob Loblaw also goes on the hards. He is one of them that's brave enough to try a little bit different strategy for most people. So he is going to come out, looks like in P7 on those hard tires, and should be able to go all the way to the end. So Ferrari splitting the strategy between Bronson and Bob.
The medium runners are making a really big mistake. The chance of another safety car are really slim. I think they had to have pit for hards here, just because this track, like we mentioned before, is not one where you're going to have a lot of opportunities for overtaking. Just because you have that pace advantage with softs is not going to guarantee that you're going to be able to fly through the grid like we saw guys like Travis Robinson last week do at Brazil, or 2 weeks ago at Brazil, pardon me.
So getting some word from the Haas garage. Will Graham, we know, had a really rough qualifying session. It was just bad times for him, as Ian Krager and Jason Pelter inherit 1 and 2. Travis Robinson only drops down to P3 in all of that, so advantage to Travis there potentially. But I'm getting word from the Haas garage that Will Graham, after that rough quali session, actually forgot to load his setup when we remade the lobby, and that's an unfortunate thing that can happen when you have to remake the lobby. It doesn't save your settings, and so you wind up with the baseline default, which Duncan McCamick swears by, says it's a really good starting place for most tracks, but I find that most drivers don't really like the balanced default setup.
Yeah, the problem with it is the suspension setup there. It always has like really high front suspension, which just makes the car feel super weird.
Yeah, it really
Or really stiff suspension, so the car
understeers.
doesn't turn in.
Mhm.
Yeah, it doesn't turn in, and then it just cooks the crap out of your front tires. So you always get this weird like imbalance of tire wear. So you're like halfway through the race, you open up your tire wear thing, you're at like 55% fronts and like 27% rears. It's really bizarre.
Let's reset our big movers here. Nobody with penalties. That's good news for everyone. So Ian Krieger started at the back in P20, jumped 19 spots. Jason Pelter was P19, up 17 spots. Problem with that is they are still on used medium tires, so unlikely to finish the race. Unable to finish the race in that position. Travis has dropped 2 positions, but he is the net leader once the next round of pit stops happen.
Duncan McCamick just went back into the pits. I guess he accidentally put on a fresh set of softs and then decided, well, I can't do that. I have to put on another set of mediums. So now he's in a really rough position.
So that drops him from what, P7 all the way back down to P16. So that's a big mistake. He drops a spot there to Victor Diaz. So Victor and Jack, P14 and 15, the Mercedes will have a chance to make up some ground here. Victor and Duncan have both lost 8 spots since the start of the race. Lee Hall's lost 5. Bronson Stafford has made up 6. So we talk about Bronson a lot. Bronson's a guy he's another one like Jack Fletcher that can just get in and drive the dang thing. He'll practice maybe 30 minutes for this race, and he'll show up. And luckily, he's got a good teammate that'll give him a really good setup for the track, and he'll come out and just tear it up. And his skill range is so broad. Bronson, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, was in the iRacing Daytona 500. Okay, that sounds neat. That's cool. Whatever. Did we mention that one of the people he was racing side by side and bumper to bumper with was Dale Earnhardt Jr.? But that's the level of driving that we have in somebody like a Bronson Stafford. And you look at all these other drivers that are able to hold their own against someone who races with a real life racing driver in a NASCAR series, and it helps you understand the level of talent here in D1.
Yeah, D1, it can be just, we've seen in a lot of races where we go into qualifying and the entire grid is separated by just 1 or 2 tenths. So in terms of just the amount of talent we have, yeah, it can be really, really sweaty here in D1.
Well, and speaking of sweaty and fast, we're going to say what's up to all of our friends from the Champs Racing League, sort of a, not necessarily a sister organization, but we're working together a lot on a lot of stuff, and so a lot of our reserves are actually coming over from Champs, and so we're working together to try to build both of our communities larger, and so very happy to have CRL on board. And looks like the safety car is going to be in this lap, and Ian Krieger is backing them way up. And away he goes. He's going to try to get the jump. He gets a 7/10 jump already on Jason Pelter. Jason Pelter falling a little bit behind. Travis Robinson will be following him, trying to close that gap up on those fresher tires. So hopefully everyone had time to prep their tires, because as we go through turn 1 into turn 2 through the S's here at Suzuka, it's a bad time to have cold tires, because those curbs will eat you alive and never feel a thing. Ian's already built up a 1-second gap on Jason. It's a really good start from Ian.
It's just these medium runners are just they're basically hoping for a miracle at this point, because they're on older tires and they're on worse strategy at the same time. So it's just, they may be up a little bit, but they're down big in terms of the race.
So you see everyone there has 1 lap on those tires. That is not an actual race lap of wear. So you can kind of negate that 1 lap, and you basically got a free lap to warm them up. They're not going to be really worn. Victor and Jack actually invert the cars here. I don't know if Jack had a moment. Duncan has dropped back now as well. Duncan is around with no front wing, so bad news for the Honda gang. Their leader, the man they call Mr. McCamick, falling back, already 7 seconds behind the pack, and is going to have to stop again. This will be his 3rd stop, I believe. And bad times for the McCamick and Honda gangs.
It seems like a trend we've had this weekend. The people who spent too much time playing iRacing the last 2 weeks are the ones who are having trouble staying on track.
So Lee Hall, one of our drivers who had an issue earlier and opted for the softs, just picks up a 3-second time penalty. So all the guys behind him are going to be looking at that as free real estate and just try to keep as close to the back of him as he can. And Lee, if he's smart, doesn't put up much of a fight and lets him through.
Oh, there goes Jack Fletcher. Oh, he saved it somehow. Dude was completely 90 degrees and got back on track. His tires are probably cooked, but that was a Beamer level Tokyo drift there.
Well, sorry we missed that on the stream. Hopefully Jack's recording his race. We can post that highlight for you guys later. Another driver that had a lot of issues in Division 3, Yuki Tsunoda, one of our youngest drivers for AlphaTauri, had a lot of issues through the S's, and I know he practiced a lot this week, and so this track doesn't care how much you practice. It doesn't care how much your setup is working. This track's going to do to you what it wants to do to you.
Yeah, it really does. It's like fighting against Mother Nature, just as a mind of its own. Just sometimes it just decides, I'll let you through this time. The other time it's like, I don't like the way you touched me the other time, so I'm just going to throw you off the track this time.
Meanwhile, Ian has built up almost a 3-second gap on Jason Pelter, so he's really getting good use out of those tires. Ian's one of them. We talked about it just about every week. He is always near the top of our hot lap leaderboards. The kid can just flat out drive the thing fast. Sometimes in traffic he can get a little frustrated and make mistakes, but when he's out front and leading like this, he can build up a pretty significant gap pretty quickly, and I think he is going to go probably about another 7 laps, throw on some softs, and hope he doesn't lose too many positions.
Yeah, it's going to be rough. Basically the entire grid outside of maybe Duncan is within his pit stop window, so it's a really tough spot that he's in right now.
Travis making a big gain here on Jason Pelter. Of course, he did have the DRS as it was just enabled. He also has the fresher tires by about 7 laps. I would call that 9 laps because he only had the 1 lap under safety car. But yeah, Jason Pelter is going to be feeling the heat from Travis here, and Tom is right behind them. So Jason Pelter's got to defend for his life here, to try to pick up big points for the Haas and try not to lose too much track position. As just like Ian, he's going to have to stop again.
Yeah, we talk a lot about how hard the S's are, but I think honestly the hardest part of the entire track is that stupid uphill left-hander at the end of the S's, because your brain's like, oh, I'm going uphill, it's not a very strong corner, but your brain is like, dude, I can just take this thing flat out, but every time you try to take it flat out, you just lose your rears and you go flying off the track. So you always have to do these weird lifts, just trying to feel it out every single lap, and it's so frustrating because you just cannot get the right feel for it.
It's definitely bad times when you get anywhere near that gravel, as Joe Braun picks up a 3-second penalty. Anywhere near that gravel and you're done, you're going to be around. We saw that happen to Siggy, I believe, during qualifying and in Division 3, and it was just it was bad times for Siggy, and had to get him to calm down and refocus, and he ended up improving on his next lap, but man, it's just so hard. Lee Hall is going to have DRS and the tire advantage here on Bob Loblaw.
Ooh, big battle between Bronson and Cal there. Bronson, they kind of ran into each other, and Cal got knocked off track, and a bunch of people got caught up in that, but no damage, I don't believe.
Cal drops all the way down to P16 as Bronson at Stafford actually goes around and loses it into turn 1. So he's going to have to hold for a second, and luckily the traffic clears him. He's going to go a little sightseeing, little lawn mowing action, cool those tires off in the grass, and then try to make up some time. So actually, he and Cal have an incident. Cal actually ends up recovering the position back from Bronson, but not on purpose. Bronson had a bad issue. Let's jump on board with Lee. Lee has actually gotten past Bob Loblaw, who's has a tire disadvantage on the hard tires. But then John Ranger and Lee went side by side, and Ranger looks like he took that spot. So Lee has probably about 4 more, maybe 5 more laps of good left in these tires, and he's got to capitalize on as many spots as he can. Travis Robinson has taken that spot from Jason Pelter. Travis and Ian, really good friends off the track. They were former teammates in ACC driving the Ferraris. And not going to be any love lost there if Travis does catch up to Ian. Ian is not going to give that away freely, but has to know that those older tires, he's going to wind up giving up some of that gap.
But you know what I want to see? I want to see Lee just go to the end on these softs. Just say, I'm a rebel, and I'm going to take my softs for however many laps is left here. 20 laps, whatever he's going to do on these.
Just blow him up on lap 26, just red. 1%
show him who's boss.
All right, Travis, like we said, is going to be quick on these fresh mediums. He does set the fastest lap of the race. That would be an extra point for Honda if he can keep that and keep it in the top 10. Tom has now taken that spot from Jason Pelter, and Jack Pemberton has just made the move on Cal. So the Mercedes gang trying to make things happen here, but right now, Mercedes power is at the front in the form of Tom and Lee Hall.
Yeah, in terms of fastest lap, will probably be between either Ian Krieger or Jason Pelter, when they inevitably have to pit for their second stint, they'll be on really fresh tires and really low fuel, so they should be in a really good spot to get fastest lap. But they won't really make up for the bad position that they're already in.
Right on board here for a little bit with Damian Doe. He is towards the back. Actually, let's grab Jack Fletcher and we can watch this whole train unfold in front of us. We've got Tom, Jason Pelter, Lee Hall, John Ranger, Bob Loblaw, Damian Doe, Jack Fletcher. Now Jordan Angus is joining the party. Lee Hall does take that spot from Jason Pelter for the time being. They will both have to pit again. But we have a nice long DRS train basically from P3 all the way back to P10. Let's take a look at Jordan Angus and see how he's faring. As we do have a yellow flag. I guess somebody went off track momentarily. If we see somebody slowing up, Jordan Angus will catch up to him very quickly here. Everybody
I think it
makes
was Joel Guron went a little wide at the exit of the spoon.
Everybody clean, so we're going to have a big old DRS train here, and bad news for Lee Hall, who is not going to have DRS, so we'll jump back behind with Jason Pelter. Jason, with a huge tire disadvantage, does take the spot from Lee Hall, and John Ranger is going to send it down the inside, side by side, wheel to wheel, into the curves, into the S's. Lee Hall with the slightly better tires at this point. John Ranger is not at a great disadvantage, but Lee Hall does hang on to the position for the time being, and he and Jason Pelter have swapped the positions back through DRS.
Man, it's such a crazy battle. It's such a butt-clenching battle trying to fight through these S's, man. Those curbs are just waiting to send you off the track.
And
really nice driving for both of them.
Bad news for Alpine, even though they're in the lead right now. Cal, the reserve, having a bad time as he goes around again. Hold on to it, Cal. No wing damage yet, but he is spinning all around, and luckily no pressure from behind, so he can take his time and get those tires cooled off and back on track. Because Duncan McCamick is 41 seconds behind from Cal right now.
It looks like we just missed some contact between Lee Hall and Jason Pelter. Lee Hall broke his front wing, I think, on the exit of the hairpin. So now he may have to pit on this lap.
John Ranger may have something to say about that, because he is all over Lee Hall's gearbox. Lee recharging that battery right now, and you may be right, he may have to come in again for another wing change. That's a solid 8 to 10 seconds that he's going to lose out. He's going to have to pit again anyway. He does go in, so Lee Hall back into the pits for the third time, I believe. And yeah, just unfortunate for the Aston Martin driver. Advantage to Jason Pelter in that whole deal. He was able to stay ahead, and even with the DRS, John Ranger was not able to catch him. So Lee Hall drops all the way down to 15th place. Bronson Stafford gains a position to 14th.
A lot of ground to cover though to kind of catch up with Tom. But Tom and Travis are in a really good position right now to fight to win this race at the end, because like we mentioned before, both Ian and Jason still have to pit for their second set of tire, or for their second stint. So it's going to be rough for them come the end.
And Tom's got that over 3.5 seconds back to John Ranger. So basically, it's a 1-2, Travis Robinson and Tom, provided they can both keep it clean. Tom's had kind of a quiet season. Really good dude. Really just kind of keeps to himself. Very helpful, but very much just let's show up and drive and do it that way. Not really there's a lot of us that are big talkers, me especially. Usually you'll find out the biggest talkers are the worst drivers. So I think that's part of why Tom's so good, is he focuses on the driving and lets his driving speak for him.
Back in P7 and 8, we have kind of almost like a log jam here coming out of the spoon down into the final chicane. 3 cars really close to each other. Take that back, 5 cars, like gearbox to gearbox here.
Jordan Angus bringing up the rear of that train, so John Ranger is going to take that spot from Jason Pelter. Can Bob also send it on through on the Haas driver? Bob's not going to be able to get the position, but next time around, you know, Bob's going to be licking his chops. A top 5 finish or even a podium would be exactly what the doctor ordered for Ferrari.
Yeah, if Bob Loblaw can clear Ranger relatively soon, then those hards are going to have a pace advantage on those mediums at some point in this race. So he might be able to make up time and be in that battle for the lead at the end of the race.
Bob just absolutely sawing away on the steering wheel, trying to make sure he keeps some temp and grip on his front tires. Very easy to lose temp in the hard tires. It's harder to get it in there, but yeah, once you get him in the zone, as we saw with Sid and the Ferrari, which, you know, here we go, Ferrari gang sharing tactics. Once you get the temp in them, they're actually pretty decent race tires.
Yeah, they are. It just takes a few laps just to kind of start to feel those tire advantages. Who do we lose?
Cal is back around again. I can't tell if he has any damage. No damage, but just another little lazy spin, little stop and take a picture, have a snack. Because the S is here at Suzuka, and so Duncan McCamick was a 42-second gap to Cal. He's cut that down to 9 seconds on Cal. So a couple little spins here. So rough first outing here in Zoom Racing League for Cal. Like I said, he's one of our reserves, one of the newer drivers around here, and bad times. Ian Krager goes into the pit, so somehow Tom has now taken the lead from Travis Robinson. We missed that, and that is my fault, folks. But yeah, Tom now has a 1.5 second gap over Travis already. So I'm sorry that we missed that as we were looking at Cal, but McLaren power, the Mercedes McLaren just running away right now. Travis Robinson is at a huge disadvantage as that gap continues to grow. Now 1.8 seconds, and Tom is away and running, and it's his race to lose at this point.
That's such a big deal. Travis must have had an issue coming out of that last chicane going down the main straight, because that interval changed so quickly.
Bob is actually up 3/10 on his best lap on hard tires right now as he tries to hunt down John Ranger. They're similar age tires, but I think they can both go to the end, but right now it seems the pace advantage seems to be with Bob.
Yeah, Bob's doing a really good job right now, but it's so important for him to get past Ranger and start clawing away at that gap to Travis.
And another Sector 1 spinner. Is that a Duncan McCamick yet again? Bad times for Duncan. AlphaTauri has not had a great showing this weekend. It's their home Grand Prix for their engine manufacturer, the Honda Power, for the last year that it's officially branded as Honda. The AlphaTauris and Red Bulls going into the future in the real F1 are still going to be Honda powered. They will just not bear the Honda mark and logo. It's still going to be the same powertrain until the 2025 regulations come in. John Ranger goes into the pit, so he's had enough of those mediums. Bob moves up to P3. So now we're looking at a McLaren, Red Bull, Ferrari podium potentially. Damien also goes into the pits after only 10 laps on the mediums. Don't know if that's a great idea for the Williams driver unless he's really going to try to push here for the fastest lap.
That is a really interesting strategy from Ranger to go with the two-stopper. He has so much ground to make up in so little time. That seems like he's just kind of gifting 3 points.
And it looks like he's gone on to another set of mediums. I'm not sure what the idea was there, unless he just kind of felt like those had already lost whatever good they had in them as he was defending from Bob and trying to push. So Ian goes onto a set of soft tires. He just takes that spot from Bronson Stafford at P10, and Ian's going to be going for fastest lap here, most assuredly. Sector 1.
Yeah, Bronson spun, so he's in trouble now.
So as it stands right now, it looks like it would be two of the Red Bulls, the Honda Power in P2 and 4, two Ferrari drivers in P3 and 5, and the positions 1, 6, 7, and 9 out of the top 10 will be all Mercedes power drivers. So Victor and Jack have quietly crept back up towards the front. Victor had that really bad moment earlier. He dropped all the way down to, I believe, P19. So now he's made it all the way back up to P6 after starting around P6. It looks like Bronson has some damage to his front wing. Let's take a look at his car. He's just kind of driving on his lonesome right now. So we'll see if he goes in, if he can handle the slight bit of damage he has. But let's try to look at it from another angle here as he comes through 130R. Through the chicane. I don't think we're going to get a good view here. There it is. His right end plate's missing, so he needs to come in the pits and get that replaced. Otherwise, he's going to be suffering from massive understeer, and yeah, he does just that. Meanwhile, Tom has built that lead back up. It is 1.8 seconds over Travis, and he dropped about 1.5 seconds, but he's built that back up. They have a solid 5 seconds to Bob, and Jack Fletcher moved up to P4. He's 1.2 back, but he's got a Jordan Angus and Victor Diaz right behind him, trying to make up that time. Bronson goes on to a set of softs. I can see him trying to go for the fastest lap here as well. Let's take a look at Ian and see how he's going. He's burned through a lot of battery trying to make these spots up. He is almost 4 seconds back from Joel Guron, who is leading the way for AlphaTauri, as Duncan has had an absolutely miserable race to this point. And it looks like we have another, is that a Lee Hall around? Lee Again, bad times for Lee. Does not seem to have any damage, but is spun around in the S's. And he's going to have Bronson and Duncan coming up on him here fairly quickly.
With the amount of people we keep seeing go off track, it is possible that one of these guys is going to hit the barrier and cause us a late safety car and really throw a wrench in the end of this race.
So really our only tight battle for points that are really game-changing. Victor Diaz actually sets his best time of the race. Now he's got the DRS. He's going to be looking at Jordan Angus. And I think these two are just going to kind of hold sway right here and wait for one of the others to make a mistake. Jack Fletcher actually makes the mistake. He goes off track. So Jordan Angus and Victor Diaz get through on Jack Fletcher as he just goes off track. Just a little lazy left-right spin. Didn't seem to hit the curves. It didn't seem to be that was part of it. Just kind of lost control of the car and went left for no reason. And Jack Fletcher dropped down to P6. Beamer and G 3 seconds behind. And seems to be slowly... Well, he was closing the gap. It just looks like Jack's back in control now. But man, that was probably a scary moment there for Jack Fletcher.
Yeah, I'm sure it was, but that's kind of a big moment for Victor now, because Victor had to run on sleep for a while, and now that he doesn't have the advantage of the DRS in front of him, that Victor has a really good opportunity of making this position up.
And make no mistake, even though Sleek is in the AlphaTauri, or Alfa Romeo, apologize, and even though Sleek is actually a Division 2 driver, he is Division 1 quality for sure. Just had a very rough season, but Victor Diaz, switching back to the controller, is even though he's had a couple of moments, seems to be very much in control of his own destiny right now and looking towards the podium places. And I wonder if you're Bob, how those tires are going to hold up. I mean, they obviously will last till the end, but do they start to kind of lose their effectiveness now? And how do they compare to the mediums at this stage?
At this point, we should start seeing the hards actually have pace advantage compared to the mediums. Their pace is going to last a lot longer than the mediums as Victor passes through Sleek. Sleek is just completely out of battery. But the hards should have a significant, not necessarily significant, but at least a slight pace advantage at this point. And then on through the end of the race, the medium's just going to get worse and worse from here on in. And the hards should stay just about equal.
Well, Suzuka gives, and Suzuka takes away as Victor Diaz takes that spot from Jordan Angus. Joel Guron takes the spot from Jack Pemberton. So up to P8 for the Honda-powered AlphaTauri of Joel Guron. Jack and Joel are on the same strategy, similar pace, and so we could see them just sort of trade this back and forth over the next 6 laps. Oh, and Jack picks up a time penalty, so all that work will... Well, no, it won't be moved because Joel also has a 3-second time penalty, so the two of them basically in the exact same position here, and so this is going to be a really nice back and forth as Joel runs a little wide, doesn't seem to have good grip coming out, and actually sort of fishtails the car on the exit of the hairpin. So that'll be advantage to Jack.
The big thing for them is Ian is right behind Jack, so like right behind Jack on those fresher softs. So both of them are in trouble getting overtaken by him.
And Ian's actually going to send it down the inside. He's full on the battery, only has 11% remaining. He's going to finish the lap on just about 0, but does take the spot from Jack Pemberton. Jack comes back because Ian has to get off the battery. Jack had the advantage there. Jack Fletcher picks up a 3-second time penalty. So we're going to have a Mercedes and an Alpine on the attack against the AlphaTauri through the DRS. Here they come around to the main straight. And what can these two drivers do? Really good exit by both of them. Joel actually got a really good exit as well. Ian was actually 1.8 seconds down on his time. He's actually slower right now, so I wonder if maybe he's been pushing them too hard. Neither one of them able to catch up to Joel, and Jack goes a little bit wide. Ian's down the inside. Wheel to wheel leaves just enough space. We're going to be wheel to wheel through the S's. Joel Guron goes around, and that is the end for AlphaTauri and a chance for a top 10. And Joel Guron is out of the race. And is that going to be a safety car?
It is a full safety car.
Oh,
man. Oh, that's literally like the last lap a safety car could be possible, too. So the end of this race is going to be really spicy.
So we are going to have 2 laps of everyone bunched up, of Tom, of Travis, of Bob on 14 laps. I'll drive through penalty for Jack Fletcher for speeding onto the safety car. So other than Travis Robinson, just a miserable showing for the Red Bulls and for Honda. So Travis Robinson is going to be the hero today for the Honda gang, provided that he can hold off Bob Loblaw, Victor Diaz, Beamer, and Jordan Angus on the restart here.
Now the big question here is, do you pit or do you just stay out and hold track position?
If you're Tom and Travis, you have to stay out. And Bob, you're going to give that spot to Victor if you pit. So I think everyone has to stay out right now, unless you're somebody like a Lee Hall, a John Ranger that wants to try. Oh, Tom sells the dummy into the pits. Travis actually goes into the pits. That's shocking. He's going to give up
he's gonna-
several positions here. He's going to give that position to Bob. Victor goes into the pits. Jordan into the pits. Beamer is going to inherit P3 now. So we may have 2 hard runners on the podium that can make it all the way to the end.
Wow, the safety car is. Whew, what an amazing end with this safety car, though.
What is happening here? Jack Pemberton is going to move up some spots here. Jack Pemberton moves up to P6. Ian Krieger up into P4. That's the driver to watch right now is Ian Krieger on this restart. Yes, he has 5 laps on the soft. So what? Less than half lap. He's got 2 laps here to cool him off and to push as hard as he can. Tom is going to be at the disadvantage on the tires. He's nearing the end of the life. Bob and Beamer are going to have a little bit of trouble keeping temp in those tires. They're going to be potentially sitting ducks for Ian Krieger and Jack Pemberton here.
Well, the thing with Jack is his tires are really old, so he's going to be struggling just trying to keep Travis behind him. So yeah, I mean, these softs are going to have such a pace advantage, but we're only going to probably have about 2 laps of racing left, so it's going to be chaos. We'll probably have some people go flying into the walls also. Oh, ooh, I thought Ian almost spun out there. He's good, never mind.
All right, everybody watching the chat, make sure that you like and subscribe. We do this every Sunday night, except for our off weeks. We can provide you with our schedule. If you're not already in our Discord, the link to the Discord is in the description. We appreciate you tuning in. We want to see you here.
Oh, Cal, no! He just crashed. Oh,
Let's see if
no.
we can catch on. I'm on with Duncan, and he loses it under safety car in the S's. So that is about 4 times around for Cal. So miserable. I mean, I'm sure he is just kicking himself right now. His first appearance here in the Zoom Racing League, and man, what a day. Bad times for him. So that's 5 cars out. We have 15 cars remaining, and we're going to have about 3 laps. No, I think we're going to have about 2 laps of green flag racing when we come back. So safety car will go around at least one more time as Lee Hall has to catch up to the pack, as well as Duncan McCamick and Bronson Stafford. So tire strategy right now seems to be advantage Travis Robinson, Victor Diaz, Damian Doe, potentially Ian Krieger in a really good spot to get his first win here in Division 1 in Season 3. But if you're Tom and Bob, you want to make that car as big as possible. Beamer and G, another reserve. He's been racing in Divisions 2 and Division 3. New guy around here, but he's been having some really good results, really good driver. And so it's nice to see the league growing, getting some new fresh blood in. We actually just had some people join the Discord now. So Koss, nice to see you joining the Discord. Thanks for tuning in. And,
Beamer in this race, I think, is a really good example of somebody who had a moment early where he went off track, I think, in the first 2 laps, lost a lot of positions, but then kept it steady, went on the conservative strategy, got on the hards, and just made no more mistakes for the rest of the race. And look where he's sitting now, in a really good position to get on podium, if they can keep these really fast people behind them.
So we're going to have 2 laps, no DRS, huge tire advantage for, like I said, Ian Krieger. Doing a lot of weaving right now. The most important thing is to keep those tire temps up. It can be difficult to do under a safety car. Divisions 2 and 3, I want you to watch very carefully what's happening right here. See the gaps. We've had a lot over the past couple of races, incidents under safety car, people bumping one another. You've got to leave the space until the safety car is about to come in. Then it's okay to tuck back in. You can have up to a 10-car gap between you and the guy in front, and you're going to be just fine. The game also tells you if you're falling too far behind, so then you can speed up a little bit. So give yourself room, weave, wiggle, hold your brakes, whatever you need to do to get the tires in the zone. But we want to avoid those penalties as much as possible. So let's go to the chat. Austin says, hey, did you guys get a PS5 league? No, Austin, we are primarily a PC league. We might, in the future, look at that. We're looking to do some other expansions as the safety car is in this lap, despite the last 3 drivers in the field not being caught up to the pack. But with 2 laps remaining, the safety car kind of has to come in. So if you're in the chat, tell us right now, who do you think is going to win the race? Is it going to be the McLaren of Tom? Is it the Ferrari of Bob Loblaw? Can Beamer pull it out in the Aston Martin? Ian Krieger is going to be speedy and something to deal with. Can Travis and Victor make their way back up to the top? And we are green flag racing, and we are away and running here in Suzuka for the final 2 laps of the Japanese Grand Prix.
I think Tom is really struggling with grip there. He went really wide. Oh, someone went off already. Bronson Stafford went off.
But getting on board with Travis right now. He is sucked up absolutely to the back of Jack Pemberton. Jack's making that car a little bit wide. Nothing crazy, nothing dangerous, but Travis is looking to get this move done as quickly as possible, burning through the ERS to make sure he keeps up with his lead pack because he smells a podium. He knows that he has the tire advantage. He knows how fast he is. He started in P2, he started on pole, so we know he's quick around here. So let's see what he can do. Let's see if anybody goes wide here. Oh, a little bit of bump of Jack Pemberton there, and that's going to help Victor Diaz suck back up to the back of Travis. And it looks like things are gonna pretty well hold sway right here. Nobody with a great advantage. Nobody with a big push. Everybody's got about the same battery, and it looks like our top three have their tires in the zone they need to be in.
Ian has a pretty solid run here on Beamer on the going into the back straight, but it's just a hard place to overtake.
Oh, Beamer does go a little bit wide. Ian has somewhat of an advantage, but there's no way he gets him through the chicane here. So hard to go too wide through that chicane. You cut the first part, cut the second part. Really good exit there by Ian. Ian's going to be all over the battery immediately, and he's going on the outside of Beamer, and he's going to get that move done. There was nothing Beamer could do there. They're going to be
straight toast. Well, they're side by side still.
Side through turn one. Let's see who's brave on the brakes, who can go wide, and Ian hooks it up with that little bit better grip from those fresher softs. And unfortunately for Beamer, that means him out of the podium position. Jack Pemberton says, hey, if Ian can do it, I can do it as well. Sucked up to the back of him, and it looks like Beamer may be struggling a little bit here.
Yeah, we saw before that Beamer's pace was a little bit off because of those hards and just because of the position he was in, so he may be struggling quite a bit.
But Damian Doe has lost it at the exit of the S's. Victor Diaz trying to go down the inside of Travis Robinson, all over the back end. So the two fresh soft runners, two really quick guys, two of the lead drivers for their teams, battling it out, trying to get these extra positions here. Still got a yellow flag for Damian as Jack Fletcher's dropped all the way down to P15. Disappointing result for Jack. Bronson has moved up to P13 even after his moment, but he picked up 2 spots on all of that.
Jack Pemberton are a lot of pressure from Travis Robinson right here. Those fresh softs are just so much grip.
Tom is absolutely burning through the battery. I think this is going to be his first win here in the Zoom Racing League. Bob is a second behind, can't do anything about it. Ian is going to sit it on the outside. He's going to try to take the inside through the chicane. Looks like he's got the move done. Ian is around and past him into P2 to Bob Loblaw. Bob could not defend, couldn't do anything else. It's still a podium for Bob. And we've got Beamer NG in P4. And that is the end of the race, folks. So it's Tom from Ian, from Bob Loblaw, from Beamer NG, Travis Robinson in P5, Victor Diaz, a pair of Alfa Romeos in P7 and P8. Bronson Safford at the end of the race sets the fastest lap with a 1:30.1. Will not receive the point because he finishes outside the top 10. Duncan McCamick, huge recovery from him all the way back up to P9. Jack Pemberton in P10, and what a race. Oh my goodness, that race had a little bit of everything.
Man, those late safety cars always just make things so bizarre.
Driver of the day, Ian Krieger, and without a doubt, starting in P20. So last to first to almost first again, and he goes P2, gets on the podium. But hey, how about Tom? Tom getting his first win here in the Zoom Racing League, driving that McLaren like he stole it. His teammate Razor Senna was not here. Hunter J had a great race, but at the end of the day, it was Tom. Followed by Ian and Bob Loblaw making those hard tires work. Our first driver, I believe, to go onto the hard tires, and he made them last all the way to the end. Big podium celebrations, and we are going to take just a minute here, and we will talk to the drivers momentarily. All right, let's switch this over here, and we will wait the waiting room. So, anything surprising there for you? As we had a race was nuts. I mean, there was so was there anything that surprised you in all of that?
2 safety cars is relatively surprising, considering I think in the D3 race we had none. And then I think also the other thing was that people are so averse to using the hard tires. We saw 2 people go on the hards this race and make up a lot of time, or make up a lot of places they didn't have at the start of the race. So it's really impressive from both Bob Loblaw and Beamer to really make use of those hards, even though right at the end of the race they were both kind of getting overtaken by those faster tires.
So obviously there must have been some strategy going on in the Ferrari garage. So Sid pulls out his first win last night on the hard tires. A guy that he called me out in fairly because I was wrong, because we have a tendency, because Bob is not a loudmouth like people like me. Bob doesn't talk a whole lot unless it's something he's really passionate about. And apparently tonight he was very passionate about those hard tires, and he made them last all the way to the end. And Logic, that is a podium, brother, on the hard tires. How'd you do it?
I just tried to be fairly conservative, but at the same time, I knew that I was potentially racing for the win, so I was kind of trying to push a little harder in some spots where I knew I had more confidence. So it was tricky
So
because I didn't practice on the hards at all during the week. So
even better.
yeah.
So with the hard tires that we know, especially with the safety car restart, it's difficult to get and keep temp in them. But because of the way you run your setups, you slide a little more than a lot of other drivers do, because you tend to run a little more loose and twitchy kind of setup. Does that help at all to keep those tires in the zone that they need to be in?
I don't know. I'm actually pretty bad at tire temps, but I I think I'm okay at like catching the car when it's sliding, like pretty good reflexes, I guess. It doesn't make me faster, but I think it helps in situations like that.
So the it came down to the final chicane between you and Ian. Was there kind of a Code Brown
Yeah,
moment, or did you kind of know like he had the better tires then, and
yeah,
you don't want to lose the
yeah,
race?
exactly. I didn't want to give up a podium just to try to keep second. Too much risk. Yeah,
Well, brilliant drive, really good result for Ferrari. I know
thanks.
Bronson had a bit of a moment, but he did take home the fastest lap point, so he did keep the other constructors
Yeah,
for getting that.
yeah,
So
that was awesome of him. And yeah, he was. I feel bad for him because, you know, he he used my setup, and you know he didn't have any time to practice like usual.
right,
So
exactly. So well, hell of a
yeah,
race. Good job, really smart strategy call. And is this is your first podium in quite a while, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, it is.
Well, it's nice to see
But
you up
thanks.
there.
Yeah, thanks.
All righty. Well,
All right.
let's talk to our man. Well, I say man, our young man in P2. We talked about how fast he was. We talked about how he is basically one of our hot lap champions. We knew on the fresh, soft tires that Ian was going to be crazy quick. It came down to the last chicane. Brave move to send it on Bob, and it worked out nicely. And so, Ian Krieger, this is your first podium of this season, isn't it?
I believe it is.
How you feeling?
Ugh, I'm feeling insane right now.
Well,
P20 to second?
what?
That's crazy.
Oh, and not just that. P20 all the way up to first. You were leading on the medium tires for several laps. Went in on the second safety car, I believe, and put on softs, and just an absolute tear through the field back up to P2. I know you don't plan for two safety cars, but was that part of the strategy? You knew what you might do in that situation.
Um, I don't know. I just took a gamble on softs and it paid off.
So, did you feel any pressure from the guys behind you? I know Travis had also had some softs on. You know, you guys are very similar in pace. He's really quick as well. But did you feel like you had that in the bag the whole time?
Um, I mean, Jack was behind me on his mediums, so there was a car between me and Travis. So if Jack held off Travis, I was kind of clear.
Well, it's a good showing for Alpine. We know Peter is out of the country right now, and you two being two of the youngest drivers on the grid, early picks in Division One, and reliable drivers. It's disappointing to not have him here. Cal had a rough race, so are we going to see Alpine back up near the top in the constructors now?
Yes, for sure.
All right, there's some work to be made up, but a podium definitely helps that. So good job today, and we will see you next week, Ian.
Thank you.
And now a moment we have all been waiting for. It has been a while since this man has had a really memorable and exciting result. And with his teammate out, he steps up to the plate. And Tom, how are you feeling right now?
Pretty good. That was a crazy race. Uh, and yeah, lots of pressure. I haven't been in that situation in a minute, so it was fun.
But you guys started really strong. You and Hunter put it 2-3, and that was for me a little bit of an unexpected result. Hunter hasn't been around as much; he does reserve, and you tend to kind of fall in like this 6 to 8 as far as depending on the track, of course. But it's kind of rare for you to be on the front row or the front two rows like that. So was how did that feel as far as like the start of the race? Did it change the way you approached it or your strategy at all?
Uh, I expected it this time. I actually practiced a lot for this one. Japan's a really tricky track, and when I first started it, it was spinning out of all the time, so I put a lot of effort in. So I don't know. It was good to see Hunte up there as well. Every time he comes in reserves, he always is like in the top five in his crazy speed. So that kind of, I was hoping he'd make it all the way, but yeah, I saw he had some unfortunate incident with a curb by the looks of it.
Yeah, those curbs are terrible. So what was your strategy? Was just through the S's, just stay off the curbs, stay away from them, don't get anywhere near them. Was that kind of what you were going for?
I took a much higher downforce setup than most people. So I was cruising through the S's. That's where all my time gain was. So I was really just trying. I was taking some of the curbs, but I knew what I could do. I knew the limits. So and downforce really helps there.
Well, both of the AlphaTauris had a bad showing. One Red Bull had a kind of mediocre showing. So I think if my math is correct, that actually even with Hunte having a DNF and Razor not being here, I think that actually puts McLaren at the top of the constructor standings after that win. So really, really good showing from you.
Yeah, I'm glad to finally start contributing. Fraser's put the team on the back for a minute here, so glad to help. Uh, yeah,
So
great result, great race.
back-to-back McLaren wins. Have we have you guys kind of taken it in that you weren't picked as early as some of the other drivers, and you're kind of using that as fuel to the fire to show that you deserve to be in any of the top teams?
I think if I want to, I could put in results any week, but it really depends on if I work at it and if I don't crash. I crash a lot, so that's all I got to care about. If I don't crash, I think I could put up top results from here on out.
Well, Tom, I don't mean to spook you, but next week is Monaco.
Uh, I'm not gonna make that one, so I
Oh,
don't have to.
don't have to
Yeah,
worry about it.
unfortunate. I can't follow it up. It's one of my worst tracks, so kind of lucky but unlucky. I'm sure whoever will reserve will do well, though. I know Razor's crazy fast around it, so I'm predicting a Razor W on that one.
Absolutely. That's a good teammate right there. All right, Tom, congratulations on the win. Really great drive. Really proud of you, and hope to see more of it in the coming weeks.
Yeah, thanks. See you guys.
Yeah, so if at Big Mama Frank, if at the beginning of the evening I had told you that we're going to have two McLarens, one of which is a reserve, and Razor not be here in the top three, and that Travis Robinson, even though he was on pole, would not put it on the podium, that would have, I think, been a surprising result, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we hadn't seen Tom perform like that all season so far, and so that was a really, really impressive drive from him. Almost like he was able to like use the power of his, absent teammates to will himself to victory today. It was really impressive.
That was very philosophical. I love it. So that was Suzuka. Two safety cars, kind of a surprising result. A lot of curbs eating people. A couple people had a really bad race. Looked like Will Graham, because of his setup issue, just called it quits early and retired in the pits, and that's completely understandable. You don't want to drive around on a I mean, you're already driving in a Haas. You don't want to drive around in a dump truck on top of that. So we want to thank you folks for tuning in. That was a really exciting race for us. We were glad we could bring it to you. We hope you liked it. Take a moment before you log off tonight. Like, subscribe, join the Discord if you have questions, if you're interested in racing. If you're just interested in hanging out, we're a really big, large community. We do a lot of other stuff. We have people that race in ACC. We have people that race in AC. We have people that race in iRacing. Ian plays a lot of Fortnite for some reason, so we'll go ahead and call him out. He got a podium, but he plays more Fortnite than he does F1, and we'll figure out how that works at some point. But this has been me. I am the Toto Rivas. He is the Big Mama Frank. That has been Japan. That has been round 4. Next week, we are in Monaco. We are back here Saturday morning. It will be Wake Up with ZRL with the team principals. Maybe Josh Barnsley, maybe not. Friday night is the Academy and Reserve race. So if that's something you're interested in doing, trying to join the league, seeing where you fit in, the Academy and Reserve races are a great place to start. So make sure you like, subscribe, and we will see you back next week for Division 1 of the Zoom Racing League.